Welcome back to Fast Market, everyone. Kevin Hinks back here for the second segment of our show. And for that, now we stick with Tom White, but we also bring in a contributor across the TD Ameritrade Network, Miss Jenny Horn, to the show. And also our guest from now Florida, used to be Louisville, Kentucky, Mr. Landon Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio.com. Guys, welcome to the show. Jenny, Best Buy is our feature stock today. What do you have for us on Best Buy coming out with earnings before the open tomorrow morning, Jen?
Yes, and Kevin, so I have to disclaim that I kind of think of Best Buy, I think of where it was when I was growing up, which was this sort of shopping center with a Radio Shack and a Blockbuster. So I would have guessed that Best Buy would have been left for dead. It was sort of retail death row, but they've proven me completely wrong. They've really benefited from, of course, the shift in working from home, as so many people right now are still working from home, despite the fact that we are all here. But also, if you look at sort of their best sales offerings over the last year, they really saw strong sales in batteries, PCs, laptops, and printers, and also refrigerators. So that sort of falls into this whole home improvement trend, which of course we've seen benefit some of these home furnishing retail stocks over the last year when people just wanted to invest further in their homes, and I think sort of the spaces they were spending so much more time in. But really, for this quarter, expectations are high. They're expected to grow their revenues, and also we're really seeing gross margin hold steady at about 23% over the last year. But what is also interesting from retail sales last week that actually pointed out that consumers are spending less on some of these big ticket items, more on services. So we're seeing more spending on, say, travel, less on high ticket items like a refrigerator. So that is one bit of concern. But I actually found a really interesting note from B of A that sort of highlighted their second quarter earnings on back to school demand specifically. And it's been a while since I went back to school, but it does make perfect sense that you might need updated electronics depending on, of course, what level of school you're at. But they're also seeing this sort of gradual shift to in-person learning, so analysts will be looking for really any guidance there. But really, for this report, it'll be interesting to see how sort of a mix of also online and in-person has sort of comprised their sales mix, because of course they benefited from being so hugely online. Now we're seeing people return to normal, and of course we'll be looking for any sort of clarity on the Delta variant with the potential for store closures. Now, fingers crossed that does not happen, but that is something that could potentially weigh on their top line in this quarter. Now, management has also discussed how they could face more difficult comps this quarter, which could lead to gross margin pressure on a year-over-year basis. But they are expecting comps growth of about 16%, which is a deceleration from last quarter, which had about 37%. But all things considered, this name has completely proven me wrong. Now, you can see the stock is about $15 off its all-time highs there. We have seen some volatile trading, but a lot of people say that actually this name is fun to trade for earnings because of its volatility, and that is what our first tweeter today discussed, sort of the swings the stock tends to make ahead of these reports, which says, Best Buy, a quick swing idea, and I've played this one before, is it has historically dipped post-earnings. Earnings released is August 24th, and it's trading at 112.63 on my watch list for this week. So we're seeing it actually higher, I mean, about 0.3% higher ahead of this report, of course, today with the broader market strength. But I do think it's interesting because this tweeter is correct. Historically, they do dip post-earnings, so something to keep in mind when we're all trading this later. But our next tweeter actually talks about something that I thought was interesting, because I feel the sentiment for retail as a whole, and sort of part of the reason I grew Best Buy into some of this sort of, dying retail. So our next tweeter today says, what is even the point of going to Best Buy anymore? They never have anything in stock, and I end up having to order online anyway. So it's funny because Tom White and I were actually having this discussion before we came on, where we weren't really sure when last time either of us was in a Best Buy, which is obviously not good for its foot traffic in stores, but it mixes well for the fact that their online sales have been very strong over the last year. So Landon, I have to say that I take both of those things into consideration when looking at this name, because I don't really see many people going to Best Buy, but I'm sure online they're doing well. So what is your data telling you?
Yeah, that's crazy because I've probably been to a Best Buy like 4 times in the last month, but that's different, I guess. But yeah, it's interesting. You talk about home renovation. That was a big thing for Best Buy because they do sell a lot of things that you would use to renovate your house, not just appliances, but maybe people want to upgrade their TVs, speaker systems, that kind of thing, the traditional Best Buy stuff. But I think really the key factor for Best Buy is work from home, school from home, that kind of thing. Because what's interesting now is you've got a lot of people who not only are working from home that weren't before, but now there's some that are returning to the office, some that are kind of doing both, a little bit of a hybrid model. And there's a good chance that there's a lot of people who need 2 workstations to maintain. They've got 2 workstations that they've got to maintain. Same for schooling. If you're schooling a lot at the school versus at home, and you need to have both. Maybe you've got 2 setups that you've got to maintain, which means you're buying all the little things more often. And so we look at people, working from home, and that has, as far as mentions go, it's actually up about 300% versus 2019, and it's stayed there. And what's interesting is, I just looked at people talking about working out at home, which is not related to Best Buy, but what's interesting there is that's up 10% since 2019. So it's basically back to where it was, but working from home is up 300%. So there's a lot of staying power. There's a lot of people that are doing that for the first time, and they're staying with it. But when we're looking at Best Buy, one of the data points I wanted to point out today was their omni-channel fulfillment. So, all their online properties, bestbuy.com, et cetera, ordering online like that tweeter talked about. This is crazy. So if you look at the seasonality here, of course, it's going to be seasonal around Christmas and the holidays, Black Friday, all that. Of course, you got the COVID spike in there around, starting in March, April of 2020. People started working from home, buying new things. But then look how much higher this last Christmas was than previous ones. So this is showing us, and now if you look, plus 39% versus 2019, this is telling us that Best Buy has done extremely well at transitioning their customers from coming into the store to going online. And so I think I'm in the vast majority of people that have gone to Best Buy a lot, but I'm setting up, the 2 workstation thing. So I have to buy a lot of stuff. But most people are just like the tweeter that you talked about, Jenny. They're saying, why would I even go to the store? I mean, if you want to touch and feel something, kind of see what it actually looks like. But most of the time, a TV is a TV. You can read about it, you can see the specs, and you can just order it. So Best Buy is doing really well. Then I think they're competing well with Amazon as well, because you can get basically the same price on either one of them, and a lot of times you're getting a faster delivery through Best Buy.
Yeah, and Landon, it's Tom here. I think one of the reasons you've been going to Best Buy is because you just moved, because I just recently moved. I didn't go into Best Buy, but I ordered their service to set up things at my new place. And I think that Geek Squad and the services part of their business gets overlooked a lot. So is your data reflective of that, where people have to set up home offices, have to set up their network, they need better coverage, they're hanging a TV because the housing market's still doing well, and those are the reasons that the data is decent but not spectacular, right?
Yeah, so actually when we talk about Best Buy as a property, as a company, we look at everything. We look at all of their different brands and products. So yes, Geek Squad is included in that. The omni-channel, I don't think there's a lot of people ordering Geek Squad online. That's not part of that stat. But I think that one really speaks to the strength of what Best Buy is able to do. I mean, you might go in there to pick up something that you're not sure of, and you got to ask some questions. It's nice to be able to do that. But I think for most people, buying stuff in technology has now gotten to the point where you're very comfortable just reading about it online, and you kind of already know which one you want most of the time. So you go get it online, and it's a very simple process. But they've got, they got the curbside pickup. They've got, order online and just go walk in and grab it. Delivery. They have a lot of fulfillment options, and I think that's why they're able to not die out like a lot of us thought they would have to an Amazon type property. So I like where they're at long term. The stock price has been pretty flat over the last year, so we'll see if they're able to get any kind of legs up. But right now, I'd say that long term we're bullish on Best Buy, but short term earnings pretty neutral.
Okay, so Landon, I am not in the camp that is you and Tom that has just recently moved. I feel like the rarity right now, at least in Chicago, where I'm back working in an office full time. So I was so excited to not have to use my at-home, electronics. I was basically throwing my printer out the window that I did buy from Best Buy, I will admit. But I'm curious because this is, of course, a conversation we always have with retailers, particularly Best Buy, I think, the Amazon effect. Because I do think that sometimes these fears are overblown, no doubt, but I have to think that a lot of these electronics you can sort of price shop. You could go on Target, Walmart even now, Best Buy, Amazon, to sort of find your best price point. So are you seeing that where people are just really sort of treasure hunting almost for the best price? Because that's at least what I do when I shop for electronics.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, this is anecdotal, but I bought a lot of stuff at Best Buy, and almost every time, at least for the first like 3 big purchases, I was in the store and I got my phone out and I went on Amazon and I compared the price and it was identical every single time. So after the first 3 times, I was like, all right, well, apparently they know that people are doing this, so it's exactly the same. So I don't think there's a ton of that just based on my personal experience, but I think these stores, they know that that's going to happen. They've all got sort of a price match or a pre-price match where they already looked at the other prices and they do it. And with something like a TV, I mean, it's so commoditized now that the price is just the price, and you're not going to really find a big variance. Now, some of the smaller items, or you might find something like that, but not really on the bigger purchase items. And I can tell you, 3 for 3, it was exactly the same to the penny. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to waste my time checking anymore.
Landon, this is exactly the topic that I was going to attack in this segment, which is there was a time when Best Buy was whispered to be Amazon's showroom, right? You go in there, you look at them at things, and then you go order them somewhere else. But they've managed to match prices and speed up delivery. Jenny, I'm in the camp with Landon and Tom. I just upgraded 2 TVs, went to Best Buy on a Sunday morning, home in an hour with 2 TVs, all done. So, but here's the thing, how did they do it? How did they get their prices to meet a company like Amazon? Were they able to match that? Because the turnaround story with them between 2012 and 17, they got beat up pretty bad. But from 2017 till now, this is a recovery story that a lot of people didn't think could happen, Landon.
Yeah, it's their website. They've done it with technology, and that's always what we see is technology always allows companies to either survive or thrive. And for Best Buy right now, it's sort of survival, right? Everyone thought Amazon was going to kill a lot of companies. We talk about this a lot. Best Buy, one of them. And it didn't happen. And now I think it's almost the opposite effect. You say Best Buy was going to be the showroom for Amazon, but then if it is, you walk in and it's the same price. Now you have a choice between walking out right now with the item, or it'll be at your house in 2 to 7 days. So it's actually kind of the opposite now. It's like, well, I'd rather have it right now. Right. I mean, I'm here. I'll take it home with me. So I think that Amazon, they've got to figure out a way to get the upper hand back. They had it for a while, but companies like Walmart, Target, Best Buy, they did not surrender to Amazon, and they've actually used technology and the fact that they've got way more stores / distribution centers than Amazon as an advantage. And I think it's fantastic to kind of see the narrative evolve, because 5 years ago, all the smart talking heads like you and I, we all said, oh, Amazon's going to kill them all, right? But no, that's not what happened. These companies did not lay down, and they used technology.
Yeah, brick and mortar, Landon, has answered and got in the fight. And actually, they're driving Amazon to have their niche, what they're good at, but they're not good at this, right? They're not good at walking out with a TV. And that's why maybe Amazon is starting to get into brick and mortar. But great presentation, as always, Landon. Thank you so much for coming on and giving the LikeFolio perspective when it comes to a stock like Best Buy. Appreciate you coming on, as always. We also say goodbye to, Jenny Horn's probably going to stay. So let's throw it to Tom White now. Tom, you've got about a $6.50 expected move in Best Buy. Earnings coming out before the open tomorrow. What do you got for us in terms of a trade for Best Buy, Tom?